Iba't iba ang pinagdaanan ng mga atleta sa nakalipas na 7 buwan ng community quarantine. May ilan na talagang napahinga ng husto, may ilan din ang nagbabalik aksyon, at may ilan naman na umangat ng husto ang career. Isa dyan ang guest athlete natin ngayong hapon na si James de los Santos, na nangolekta ng karangalan sa iba't ibang online karate do kata competitions tungo sa pagiging top senior eKata athlete sa mundo. Magandang hapon and welcome sa PTV Sports, James.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you again for having me here. I really appreciate it.
James, first off, I want to congratulate you for your successful feat as rated #1 sa Virtual Kata World Rankings. But before we go into that, how are you this past months, lalo na with all these difficulties that we are experiencing right now?
Well, yeah, for the past 8 months, I've just been really focusing on these virtual tournaments because I really wanted to climb to the world #1 spot. But then before that all happened, I was just planning on going back to university to finish my last subjects at the start of this year. And then this whole coronavirus pandemic happened. And then that's what made me go back to training again. But then there was stress also. There was the cabin fever. That's what got me frustrated. I started doubting myself, like, why am I still continuing my training? And then I saw a friend of mine from the US team. He was competing in his first virtual kata tournament and he won it. And then that's what made me curious, like, okay, so this new concept of virtual tournaments is it's possible for karate, especially for my event, which is kata. And then another teammate of mine, si Engin Dagohoy, he invited me actually to the Palestine International Karate Cup. And then I told myself, you know what, why not? I mean, this is going to be I think this will be like the new normal for competition. So I gave it a try. And then I won my first ever virtual gold medal in that tournament. And then it got me even more curious to see if there were any more of these virtual tournaments out there. And then I ran across Sport Data, which has been the long-term official tournament organizer for the World Karate Federation. So many of their tournaments have been organized by Sport Data, and I also saw that Sport Data was organizing more virtual tournaments and that they developed a world ranking system for virtual kata. So that's what motivated me to get back into training and to start competing again in this new normal.
Right, and we're happy that you are starting to compete again despite the pandemic. But with this current setup right now, this, as you've mentioned, being the new normal, how are you adjusting as an athlete? Do you have any struggles right now?
Well, right now I've already adjusted to like the process of competing in virtual kata. It is different from the actual competition, whereas like in actual tournaments you perform once and you're evaluated right after your performance. But in virtual tournaments, they usually take between 8 to 10 days to finish. So on the days that I compete, I record my performances and then I submit it to the tournament organizers for approval. And then once they approve it, they send it to the judges for evaluation. And usually the results come out the next day. So these are some of those are some of the things that I had to adjust in these virtual tournaments. It's something that I've already gotten used to since I've been competing on a weekly basis for the past 8 months.
You've mentioned about your trainings, your struggles in your trainings, but how about in your personal life? How does this pandemic affected it?
Well, because in the pandemic right now, it's like people can't go out and especially like socialize because I also try to keep my life in balance, not just focusing on karate. I also like try to see my friends and socialize with them, but then the pandemic has made it more difficult to do that because you never know who has the virus out there. I always have to keep myself protected, especially also when I travel to my virtual tournament venue. I always have to make sure I put on my face mask, my face shield. I always bring alcohol with me, and I always try to maintain social distancing. So these are some of also the other factors that I've had to consider in adapting to this new normal until that there will be a vaccine produced.
That's true. Like everybody's guarded whenever we go out. We make sure that we follow protocols in order to not contain the virus, diba? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've mentioned, there are restrictions and protocols, and relatively we have more time. And now that we have more time, meron ka bang mga special hobbies or special skills na na-develop mo this quarantine period?
Well, aside from competing in these virtual tournaments, I still continue to train to keep myself healthy and fit. And I've also enjoyed cooking has also become a hobby for me as well just throughout this pandemic. And also and then I've also spent more time, especially like with my dogs, especially like I always take them for walks just to relieve my stress and all my anxiety, especially that I've always it's basically like a repeated process where I go to the tournament venue and come back and upload my videos. It's become the same routine for me now. But then these hobbies have kept me kept me busy throughout this pandemic.
That's good to know. I guess most of the athletes right now has developed certain skills like cooking skills throughout this period. James, I'm sure madaming karate do athlete na curious din mag-join or wants to join also sa eKata. Who can anybody join eKata, or are there certain qualifications?
Well, actually, these tournaments are open for everybody to join. I forgot to mention also that I do have a couple of students from the MKKPI club that are joining these tournaments. Fatima, Karen, and Julia have been joining these tournaments, and I can say that they have come out successful with it. So they have brought home medals from these tournaments, and I really congratulate them. And I really also thank their chief sensei, Jerby Lacorte, for really lending out his support to all of us. It's something that I'm very, very grateful for. He's also the reason why why we have a virtual tournament venue. So once again, I really thank him for his support to me and to also his students who are joining these virtual tournaments. And I really am proud of their progress, and I really do hope that they will continue to train and join more of these tournaments to make not just their own club proud, but to make the country proud as well. And I do want to mention also that once again, these virtual tournaments are open for everybody to join, and I really encourage them to join as much as they can in these virtual tournaments, because we don't know how long it will be till we see actual competition again. So this is also one way of keeping themselves active during this pandemic.
James, you being a veteran Karate Do athlete, in terms of preparations and actual competitions, what are the differences between the e or virtual tournaments and the regular Karate Do tournaments?
Well, with the actual competition, you perform once, and then you're evaluated on the spot right after your performance. Whilst in virtual tournaments, the athlete is given the opportunity to do as many takes as he or she wants. But in my case, I try to simulate it where I do a lot of warm-up katas first before I do my take. So just to really keep the feel of competing in an actual tournament. But even if the athlete is allowed to do as many takes as they can before they choose their best take, the judges also have the opportunity to scrutinize your performance, meaning that they can rewind your recording over and over again until they find every mistake that you've made. So I would say that I can't say that one is better than the other. Both actual and virtual competition have their pros and cons. But what I can say is that, whether it's actual or virtual competition, as long as you train and prepare for either one of them, I notice that your performance gets better because they're both still tournaments. And that's what's really needed also, aside from proper training, to become a better athlete.
Yes. Well, there are actually skeptics who say that eKata is not as competitive as the regular events. How will you respond to this?
Well, because in virtual kata tournaments from the past 8 months that I've been competing in, you should not underestimate any competitor. That's one lesson that I've learned throughout the years of competing, whether it's in actual or virtual. Because at the start, when I competed in these virtual tournaments, I was not. I mean, I didn't win right away. There were times that I
Mhm.
lost in these tournaments, so that's what motivated me to train even harder and to join more tournaments to really climb up to the world number one spot. So I would really say that yeah, you can't no matter what kind of competition it is, whether it's actual or virtual, you can't underestimate any opponent. You always have to give it your best in every performance, no matter what.
Since the start of the pandemic, ang dami mong sinalihang competitions. But for you, ano yung pinaka-memorable?
For me, I would say it was the third edition of the Katana Intercontinental League because that's where I scored over a 26 for the first time. And so far in these virtual tournaments, I'm the only eKata player that's done it. So that's something very memorable for me. And I think another memorable tournament for me was the Sport Data e-tournament World Series, the fourth edition, because I went against the former world number one from Portugal in the finals, and this was the most prestigious virtual tournament because the number of points that it awards for the virtual kata world rankings is around times four to that of a regular virtual tournament. And
Mhm.
I was also to my surprise that I won against the former world number one. So that was also a very memorable tournament for me. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that those two were the most memorable ones for me.
In one of our interviews, you've mentioned an instance where you had to upload a kata entry amid a typhoon. Can you share to us what happened during that moment?
Oh yes, that was the E Champions Trophy World Series number two. Both my student Fatima Hamsain and I were in the finals of our respective categories, and we arrived in our tournament venue at 11:20 a.m. in Sunshine Plaza. And then it just so happened that the mall announced that they will be closing at 12 noon due to Typhoon Rolly. So Fatima and I had to really wrap everything up like in just 30 minutes. So we took turns, like we barely had any time to rest in between. So, but but thankfully we were able to record our best performance. And then yeah, we had to do a lot of warm ups before we did our final take. And then, but that was not the only problem we had to face because
Mhm.
there was a possibility of a brownout. So I had to rush back home and upload my video as soon as possible. So, but we were successful. We were able to upload our videos on time and even right way ahead before the deadline. We were just afraid of a possible brownout. So I would say that yeah, this was also another memorable tournament for me.
I just can imagine how stressful that was for you. I mean, you had a competition, there was a typhoon, and the possibility of a brownout. But we're happy that you pushed through with it. You got through in it, and you won gold in that competition. Am I right?
Yes. I won gold in that tournament. That's why it was also very memorable for me since I had to do all of this just under 30 minutes. It was really, yeah, that was like it's like me against the it was like me and Fatima against the storm. So that was the that was I would say that was really very memorable for me.
Well, before you want to overtake the number one Eduardo Garcia of Portugal, and now that you have achieved that, what is your next goal?
Well, my next goal is to maintain the number one spot like throughout the whole year. And I can't keep my guards down because I know that there will be other players out there who want that number one spot. So that's what's motivating me to keep training and to keep competing in several of these tournaments. Especially that my kata coach from Japan, Masa Saito, has been reminding me that okay, we are world number one, but that doesn't stop there. We have to continue competing to maintain it until the end of the year. So that's what's so I'm very thankful also that my kata coach from Japan is still working with me to become better at these upcoming tournaments.
James, besides joining eKata competitions, you also teach young karate-do students. Paano ito nag-start?
Well, this actually also happened before I started competing virtually because a junior teammate of mine, Prince Alejo, he told me that because he's also from the MKKPI club, he told me that he has students who need to improve on their kata performance. So that's when he introduced me to my student Karen, and I noticed that she had potential to become a better kata player. So I decided to train with her, and then Fatima and Julia also followed along, and then I also was more than willing to help them improve on their performance. And then when they saw that I was winning in these virtual tournaments, I also encouraged them to give these virtual tournaments a shot, and they decided to join. And so far, they've brought home medals for the country, and I'm really proud of them, especially the progress that they've made. And I really do hope that they continue to train and to keep joining more tournaments to make our country proud.
Yes, and I'm sure they are also inspired because of your performances. But what kind of fulfillment do you get teaching these young hopefuls?
Well, I really do think that when I see my students win in these tournaments, it's also very fulfilling for me. Like me, when I win a gold medal, I'm proud as an athlete, and then when I see my students win also in these tournaments, I'm proud as a teacher. It's such a great feeling to share what I know to my students and for them to apply it in these tournaments and win. It's really it's a very very proud moment for me, and I'm just really proud of what they've done so far. Their progress, I've seen that they have been really improving. That's why I'm just really proud also, not just as an athlete but also as a kata teacher as well.
James, there's so much to talk about, but we have to pause for a short break. Kaya naman, time out muna tayo, teammates, sa ating sports kwentuhan. Sa ating pagbabalik, mas kikilalanin pa natin ang ating guest athlete na si James de los Santos. Kaya dyan lang kayo at magbabalik pa po ang PTV Sports. Nagbabalik ang PTV Sports, kasama pa rin natin ang World's Top Senior eKata practitioner na si James de los Santos. Kagaya na nga ng sinabi ko kanina, teammates, mas kikilalanin pa natin si James de los Santos. Kaya James, in this portion, we will be asking you random questions, and all you have to do is answer it and explain it further. Ready ka na ba? I'm sure you will ace this.
Yes, ready na ako.
Ready na. All right, ang number one question namin is, what is your favorite karate-do move or routine and why?
I would say that well, that's a pretty difficult question. There's a lot of moves that I'm really fond of, but I would say that it's the basic tsuki or the punch. It's like just throwing it out there. That's the most basic, but I would say that's definitely my favorite move. Because like, let's say when you make a first impression, especially like when I start my basics, I always start with the basic punching. And when you throw the first punch, that's what makes the first impression. That's why I would say it's my favorite.
All right, that's nice to know. Our second question is, if you are not a karate-do athlete, what would you be?
Oh man, I would say that because aside from karate being my favorite sport, I've always been fond of playing billiards. It's like that's
okay.
every time I see a billiard table, I always get this urge to play. So I also have my friends from the billiards team that invite me to play with them sometime. I mean, I'm nowhere compared to them. So but then yeah, like I would see myself as a probably I would see myself playing billiards if I was not
Mm.
in karate.
You've mentioned about billiards. Do you have an idol in the sport of
I
billiards?
I would say it's Efren Reyes. He's really
Mm.
he's like the icon of billiards, not just here in the Philippines but around the world. I mean, he's competed against I think the greatest, especially from who was from the US, Earl Strickland. Yeah, like it's always them two. I've always enjoyed watching their matches, especially I think when Efren Reyes had a farewell tournament. Yeah, that was something I
Mm.
really enjoyed watching, and he's somebody that I really look up to, especially like in the world of billiards.
James, lagi naming nababasa that you were born and raised sa Cebu. Was there ever a point in your life that you left the country?
No, I spent really all my years in Cebu, and then I came here to Manila to study for university. But then yeah, I've been to being that I'm half American, I've been to the US I think around 3 times, and I mean as beautiful as the United States is, it's still hard for me to leave this country. It's just that I'm just really used to living here, and I'm just yeah, it's like my Philippines will always be my home no matter what.
And that's good to hear that you're very loyal to our country. Our fourth question is, give us one thing that you are afraid of doing.
Afraid of doing I would say, oh, is this like, kind of the fears or something, like
Yeah.
fear, like what fears do I have? I'm altophobic. I'm scared of heights. But
Really?
then yes, I'm scared of heights, but then there were some rides in amusement parks where I had to where height was involved. So, I faced my fears and actually went on these rides despite
Right.
especially when I ride the Ferris wheel, like when I'm way high up, I get like I start becoming like I get all these nerves, like I can't like I start developing this anxiety when I look down, especially from a very very high altitude. Yeah, that's something I've always had that fear. But then I usually learn to overcome it, especially like when I'm on airplanes. Like I just tell myself, especially like when we experience turbulence, like yeah, I get all antsy, but then I tell myself to calm down, like everything will be fine. Especially like I'm always this type of person like who wants to always try out something new, and that habit is what makes me overcome my fears.
Mhm. Actually, James, hindi halata. You look fearless. Na, it's a maganda yan, information sa yung mga fans that you are afraid of heights. Right now, James, nasa peak ka ng career mo, but do you consider retiring anytime soon, or when do you see yourself retiring?
Well, because I've seen a lot of athletes, especially here in karate. Like there was a female athlete, a female kata player. She's from Spain. Her name
Mm-hmm.
is Sandra Sanchez. She won her first world title last 2018 in Madrid, and she was I
Mm-hmm.
think 38 years old when she won. So I just really want to continue competing. Like I don't know if I will retire anytime soon, but right now I'm not really focusing on that. I'm just focusing on what's happening now. Like, and it's these virtual tournaments that I'm really eyeing on right now. So yeah, to if I will retire soon, I'm not sure yet. Like, I'll cross the bridge when I get there.
Mm-hmm. Eto, James, I'm sure maraming nagtatanong at gustong malaman, is James de Los Santos single or in a relationship?
Now, I've been single for a while because I've been really focusing on myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they say that when it comes to romance or love life, first and foremost, before you give your love to somebody, you have to first and foremost love yourself. work on yourself, work on becoming the best version of yourself, because I would say that you can't give yourself to somebody if you are not at the best version of yourself. And a way to do that is to, focus on yourself, focus on becoming the right person, focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Like, you know, especially now that you're here in quarantine, like do other things aside from your passions. Like me, I've learned how to, like, I've learned to also discover other things about myself, and that's how you become a better person. Always try something new, and I would say that work hard at it, and then like somewhere down the road, like, because it's basically the law of attraction. When you become the
Mm.
right person, you attract the right people into your life, and one of those people could be the right person for you, and that usually happens when you least expect it. So yeah, guys, so if you're really out there still looking for the love of your life, stop looking for the love of your life. Let the love of your life look for you.
Oh, that's nice. And I also like what you said, that you have to improve and love yourself first before finding love. That's nice,
Exactly.
James, right? Diba? James, thank you sa
Hmm.
pagiging open mo sa aming short game. I hope you enjoyed this portion. But before we end, kailan ba ang last or next competition mo?
I won't be having a break on Christmas either, because I think there will be 7 or 8 tournaments for that month. So
Wow.
I would say that these months will be very busy for me.
Wow. No holidays for you or not naman?
Well, well, I guess it might be my first time not having an official Christmas holiday, because I'll still be
Mm.
because given the fact that these tournaments can last for 8 to 10 days, because it's always competition, judging, and so on. So probably, yeah, I won't be having that much of a rest. But I would say that maybe the best Christmas gift for myself is to just really work hard on improving myself in this quarantine, because like I mentioned earlier, we don't know when the whole world will return to normal. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say that would be the best Christmas gift for myself, is to really strive hard to become the best version of myself.
All right. Finally, message to our viewers, most especially your fans who are looking forward for your next competitions.
Well, I'd really like to say that I am very, very thankful to everyone who has supported me throughout this whole pandemic and competing in these virtual tournaments, and especially that I took a swab test recently, and I was declared negative. So I'm just really surprised that in all these past 8 months of competing, I've been able to contain the virus. So that's really a shocker for me, and I thank God, for keeping me healthy and safe throughout this pandemic. And I'd like to thank my sponsor, Cafeya, who has been who's been with me throughout all my struggles since the beginning of 2018. They've always been there for me no matter what. And I also like to thank my kata coach, Masa Saito, who is working with me until now, all the way from Japan, and together with the guidance of his father, Kazuo Saito sensei, and to their star student, Nozomi Yamanaka. I really thank them for their teachings and for really helping me become the kata athlete I am right now. And I'd also like to, thank my parents for really guiding me, and who've always been there for me, who've always been supporting me in my athletic career. And I'd also like to thank my former teammate and the MKKPI chief instructor, Jerby Lacorte, and to my Tito Adonis Colonia for letting me use their dojo as the virtual tournament venue. It's really much appreciated. And I'd also like to thank my conditioning coach, Jay Futalan, for giving me the conditioning programs in order to enhance my kata performance. And to all my supporters out there, I really thank them so much for supporting me. And to my students, Fatima, Karen, and Julia, continue to train and continue to work hard and in these virtual tournaments, because I know for a fact that they will continue to bring honor for the country from these virtual tournaments. And I'm just really proud of you guys for the progress that you've made. And again, thank you so much also, Meg, for having me here on PTV. It's really an honor to be here once again. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, James, sa oras na ibinigay mo sa amin dito sa aming programa. And of course, good luck sa'yo. More golds to come. We wish you well. Stay safe and God bless.
Thank you very much. Stay safe din and God bless as well. Maraming salamat po.
Para sa isang katulad ni World's top senior eKata athlete James de Los Santos, pinatunayan niya that hard work truly pays off. Sa kabila ng mga setbacks, kontrobersiya at panganib dulot ng pandemya, tinawid niya ang panibagong hamon sa sarili at nagtagumpay. At dyan na po nagtatapos ang ating kwentuhang karate daw ngayong hapon, teammates. Sa ngalan ni Dennis Principe at Ira Dalaw, ako po si Meg Siozon at ito ang PTV Sports.